Party people, well, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week I am joined once again by Tracy Barnett as we dive into the gameplay portion of the next session of our ongoing Iron Edda Accelerated campaign. Iron Edda Accelerated is, of course, the Fate Accelerated powered game of Viking warriors at the end of the world battling off Ragnarok in the wheels of 30-foot tall bone mechs. It owns. There's nothing else to say about it. Check the show notes for more information about Iron Edda Accelerated, as well as all of Tracy's other work, including Another Blank Page, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast inspired by a podcast called All My Fantasy Children, which I'll talk about in the outro, as well as The Other Cast, which is their actual play. You can find more about their games, all their stuff. Everything Tracy does is incredible and wonderful, and you should check it all out in the show notes. It's great. I promise. And so without further ado, let's dive into the game. Let's throw it over to me in the future so that he can get started with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, future me. Surprising no one, I am sitting down this episode with Tracy Barnett. Tracy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Very happy to be here, Jeff.
I'm very excited. So after the character creation session that we just went through, I'm very, very excited to get into this.
Yeah, this is going to be good. We're playing two absolutely disreputable people.
Yes, and it's going to be fun watching them collapse, I think, a little bit. Like, it's going to be cathartic to watch them get what I hope to be their comeuppance.
Well, let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Real quick, before we dive in, though, give the people listening at home, remind us of what you're working on that you want them to know about.
So I've got a couple of podcasts that I do. The first is called Waterdeep for A Few Dragons More. It is a riff on Dragon Heist, and you can find that by searching for A Few Dragons More on Apple Podcasts or wherever you would like. I do another one called Another Blank Page with my partner Kate Bowie. It is a world-building podcast that all focuses around a single moment in time, and we explore blank pages, right? Like a blank Wikipedia page where we make the link to the page in the previous episode, and then we virtually click on it and explore that same moment in time, but a different topic. We made up an entire sport in our last episode, which was a lot of fun.
Making up sports is one of my favorite things to do. Really, real talk. It's one of my favorite like world building things.
Yeah, it is a combination dueling / parkour based sport with a bunch of obstacles that we ended up calling Diadem.
That's very good. Dang.
Yeah, and that's a rarity for us. We unlike the podcast that we were directly inspired by, we don't name many things because names are hard.
Names are my favorite part of the process. I feel like it's probably apparent from All My Fantasy Children, but names are my everything.
You have a superpower.
That's fair.
You are very, very good at names. But yeah, so I do those two. I design games, a bunch of small games you can find on my itch.io page, which is itch.io/theothertracy. And I am tapping away at Valkyries. When you last heard me on this, I was still tapping away on Valkyries. And Jeff and I talked a little bit before we started recording about the need for self-care and such. So I actually reached out to Galileo Games, and at the time I told them I couldn't do the project anymore, and they came back with the best response possible, which was take all the time you need.
Oh my God, that's the best possible response.
I didn't even anticipate it. I was not even in a place with everything that I had going in my brain where I could have suggested that to them, and they came back with that instead of parting ways. So I actually will be running Valkyries at a Catacon, which as of
Excellent.
The recording is a week from Friday. And I'm still working on it. It's going to get done. I just don't have the stress of a deadline, which is kind of amazing.
That's incredible. That's the absolute. That's a great feeling.
Yeah,
it's just being able to work on a thing when you want to work on it. It's great.
It's so freeing. It means that I can think about the game in the way that it deserves to be thought about, rather than just trying to jam words down on a page and get it done because it needs to be finished.
Yeah.
So that's what I've got going on.
Perfect. Well, this week we are returning to the world of Iron Edda Accelerated. We are returning to the holdfast of Jotunheim, but we are coming from it from a different angle this time. As is tradition, we have created new characters. We are coming at the next chapter of the story from new perspectives, but this time, as you mentioned, we're not playing the best people. So let's talk a little bit about what has happened previously, and then we'll introduce our, I think, best way to describe them as scumbags, but that's, up for debate, I guess. It's not.
No, it's not. So in Jotunheim, the founding sort of questions that we answered to make this hold fast 2 sessions ago, the bone bond in the area is bonded to Ymir, father of giants, and is a friendly place for giants. In fact, they live in the hills below the holdfast. There's gold in the hills around the holdfast, and the Empire of Petruvia is attacking, or so we thought. Foreshadowing. If you listen to the character creation session, you already know what we're talking about. There are refugees streaming into the holdfast because the lower valleys are flooding, and the Jarl at the time wanted to become the Jarl of Jarls. Our first session saw that come to a screeching halt as my original character, deposed him and became the Jarl, and Jeff's original character fulfilled a deal with a giant down below in the hills and is slowly turning into a giant themselves now. And then in the second session, we had some outsiders, one outsider and a returning hunter coming to the holdfast to warn of the impending Petruvian attack. And there was betrayal and machinations, and that leads us to the people that we're playing today.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and introduce our characters. I'll go first. I am playing Claudius Moravian. Claudius was, still is in his own mind, a Petruvian legionnaire of the rarest distinction, right? A Petruvian legionnaire of the highest honor, and who represents the true belief in law and order of Petruvia. I say in his mind because there was an incident. There was a town, as during my time as legionnaire, I stared down a town that was harboring bandits, and I ordered that if the town wouldn't surrender the bandits, then they were all in league with the bandits and needed to be dealt with. This was apparently an order that my legion, the town, Petruvian government officials all felt was too far, which to me just shows that no one truly believed in the causes that we were fighting for. So I took my ball and I left to go find my destiny elsewhere. So I am here, having lowered myself to working with common bandits. I am here to carve out my own the seat of my own empire with the bloodstained blade that once represented law and order, to restore the majesty of House Moravian and take what is rightfully mine.
Blow it out your eyes, Moravian. The name's Corwin McCabe of the Clan McCabe, and I'm here doing your dirty work, and if you don't think that's worth something, you think that's lowering yourself, well, you're down here in the dirt with me, so enjoy. Corwin McCabe is a bandit. If there's something they won't sell, they haven't met it yet. They have a checkered past. Many burned bridges are lying back there. They have a fantastic mustache. And then they have a group of ragtag scoundrels that they refer to as Clan McCabe, who are very good at banding together and carousing. They are really bad at discipline and loyalty, but they're pretty good at opposing guile and haste. And Corwin's here for a payday because, as they put it, Claudius is the otter that just keeps giving on pelts.
It's real good. It's very good.
I'll see if I can keep that. I'll see if I can keep my mediocre accent up for the entire session.
And so those are our characters in a nutshell. So now we get into the story proper. So where I want to start, I think where I really want to lead with is there's a scene I want to play out, which is kind of our maybe do we want to kind of play out our meeting and coming together, or do we kind of leave that to flashback and backstory? What's more interesting to you?
I would love to start with that meeting because I think that we can use it as the framing for the first scene that we find ourselves in.
Yep.
So we're both thinking about that first day, and then we can just flash forward to where we find ourselves now.
That sounds perfect. That sounds perfect to me. So, where um where would someone come to find Corwin to like strike a deal with them? Where would I come to you?
I think that there is a place that is, it's technically in Midgard. Some people say it's in Petruvia. It's right on the border near the
Hmm.
ocean, on the western shore, and it's actually run by an islander, like someone from the Isles of Mist, like Corwin. And so it's like an actual sort of British fantasy tavern, right?
Hmm.
It's a common house, but it's sort of just by itself, um, a little bit off the ways of any well traveled paths. It's not difficult to get to, but like you have, if you're going through that area, you're going there. There aren't
Hmm.
any other villages or settlements to speak of. Um, it's basically just like a glorified farm where there are a lot of beds for people to stay and there's plenty of alcohol.
Love it.
I think that the people who stay there end up doing, work to pay their way, like their farm hands for a little bit.
Right.
Um, if in addition to paying coin, like everyone pitches in their fair share.
Yeah.
So I think that it's evening time. The sun is beginning to set. There are drinks being passed around in the common room, and that's where you can find Corwin McCabe.
And I think that this sort of almost I'm going to describe it as sort of a jovial air.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this kind of jovial late evening kind of autumnal energy to it. Like it's raining outside because it seems to always be raining these days, but there's just there's a sort of softness to the scene that is shattered when not many, I'm going to say about 4 to 6 Petruvian soldiers like burst through the door and start making proclamations.
Okay, what proclamation are they making?
I think it is. I think Claudius, tears down the door and is like, "Attention to all of those that wish for coin and glory. I come to you with, I come to you." And I kind of have to stop myself from saying on behalf of the Petruvian Legion, and I stop myself and I
Mm-hmm.
say, I'm coming to you as the first of a legacy of new legionnaires. I am seeking people who want not just a payday, but a chance at immortality. Oh, and also a hell of a payday.
Uh, do Petruvian Legionnaires, yourself in particular, do they have a symbol on their armor anywhere that's like a family standard or a family crest?
I think so. I think they've got that kind of I think they've got it sort of the Superman crest, right? Like it's sort of emblazoned on the front of the armor, kind of around maybe it's like the Petruvian symbol with the sort of family crest in front of it, a la the sort of medieval shield design,
Sure.
but it's kind of carved into the breastplate.
Okay, and I assume that Claudius has not removed or marred his family symbol.
No, keeps it immaculately like taken care of for for when we're glory, for when we return to the glory that we once were.
Fantastic. So then, when you close that last sentence, the dinner tonight is sort of like a shepherd's pie kind of deal,
Mm-hmm.
and a splat of greasy meat and carrots and peas and mashed potato hits your family crest, and from the back of the room, you hear someone shout, "Ah, blow it out your arse, Moravian!"
Oh, and I think that's the moment. Like, I think I point and I'm like, take them. Like, go grab them. And I dispatch my group, my small like squad to just go and like rough that, like take that person outside and rough them up.
Is it fair to say that we can resolve this without a die roll?
Yeah.
Okay, so your squad comes over and Clan McCabe stands up, because what they're really good at is carousing and banding together, and this is kind of the same thing for
Mm-hmm.
them. And I think that it is, a matter of a few short moments before the Petruvians are on the ground, unconscious or like clutching, broken feet or hands or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the clan are as well, but it leaves you standing there with no one around you, and me standing there with just two or three toughs, and I haven't gotten up yet
And
from my seat.
I am dead quiet, just like staring in your direction. And like at first, you can see the sort of wounded pride on my face. Like you can see the contempt and disgust that I have, and the sort of shame that I have that I was beat, that we were bested, but also maybe even more importantly that we weren't immediately respected to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see me start to like grin a little bit, like I am, I see something that I can use here.
It's obvious that you need help. If you fell to the likes of us. Now, what's this you are saying about a payday?
I am. I need. And I look at my forces, and I'm like, there's no need for puffing of chests here. I seek to claim some land for myself. As you have probably heard, I am a bit on the outs. I seek to claim a place where we can live, and where I can take what is rightfully mine. And simply put, to do this, I will need resources of the human variety to make that happen.
Corwin then stands up and begins to walk toward you, and I think as we see them do so, the tone of the light around the scene shifts, and we're in your Petruvian command tent
Mm-hmm.
in present day, and Corwin's walking up to you at your desk, because of course you've got a desk in the middle
Yeah.
of this tent, where it is that the troops have reached the holdfast. I'll be having my
Yes.
money now.
And I stop, and I throw you a pouch of coins, and I'm like, there's your first payment. And, it's a pretty impressive pouch of coins. And then
Mm-hmm.
I throw you, I'm like, and now comes the real payday, where we take what is inside of this holdfast, and we take it and we divvy it amongst ourselves and each other, and we live in whatever this boneyard is, and we live here like the royalty, like the regal essence that we are.
I've never been one for being tied down. What's to stop me and mine from just taking this second payment and going?
Well, among other things, you've been spotted. Among other things, take it from me more than anyone to say, I know how fast, I know what a bad reputation can carry. I know how you can carry a bad reputation. I know how it lingers with you. I think that you've I think that I think you can look at me and see that. If you can take your money and leave, and be the people that stood here at this battle, fought their, you could be the people that sabotaged the holdfast of Jotunheim. You can take that payday and live with that reputation and see how many more jobs you get after that. When the word gets out, and it will get out. Or you can take this payday, this considerable payday. You don't have to hang around, but you can take it knowing that you won't have to work anymore.
I'm going to mark a box of desperation
Mm-hmm.
to use what is hidden in the dark. I can declare a previously unknown fact or detail about a person in and
Okay.
around the holdfast, and for our purposes, that person is you.
You're right.
And I'm not going to make this too elaborate. I think that Corin just looks at you and says, "Oh, what are you gonna do? You're gonna kill me and mine the same way that you slaughtered everyone in that village, huh?
Not a
You want to talk about reputation? You're the butcher. That's what they call you down south, you know?
Yes, well,
The Butcher Moravian. And you want me to live next to you? Maybe there's a third pouch down there.
if you're going to put me upside down and shake out the coins, I'm going to need something from you. I'm going to need that quick one. The one with the rope.
Oh, Boke?
I've got some jobs that I suspect they can be of use. If you're going to take a third payday from me, I'm going to ask a third job of you.
Okay, so Tracy is going to ask real quick. Chronologically, is this falling after the events of the previous session?
At first I thought it was, but once that kind of presented itself, I thought it worked really well as like a precursor, as like an immediate precursor to Boke is now like, I think that there's another flash forward after this of like Boke has fled, the holdfast defenses are in disarray, and then what do we both do after that? Because I also think that like cutting to, because like the thing that I really want to like do flash forward to is the bone bonded soldier of Amir tearing through the ground and coming at us.
Okay, cool. I'm here for that. All right, so then back into this moment before we flash forward. Boke's a quick one, all right. Slippery. Fine then. I'll make sure he's compensated if you make sure that I'm compensated.
Perfect.
And you say that, and I think that there's firelight, like candlelight, flickering on both of our faces. And I think the scene shifts again. And I'm ready to go right to that moment that you just described, if you are.
Yeah, I'm absolutely.
Awesome. Then the quality of the light changes again, and the light that is flickering on both of our faces is firelight, but much, much larger, as the pots that the Midgardians had set up for fire arrows have been tipped over, and there are small fires throughout the holdfast, as we're standing just inside the front gates of Jotunheim as the walls have been breached.
I love it.
And I think you say perfect again just before the bone bonded arrives.
So let's take a moment and describe the visual of the bone bonded arriving, because like in the same way that we kind of jumped between characters a little bit last time, like I don't necessarily need to see the conversation between wherein what's my name? Ivar. Between Ivar coming home to the Giants, but I do want to see the moment, that moment of like I really want to spend some time thinking on that moment, right?
Sure. And also, just from a logistical standpoint, we need some stats for the bone bonded. So we're going to need to work out a few things on that front as well. So in your mind, who was the bone bonded? Did Ivar come back and take the bone bond, or was there always a bone bonded in the holdfast bound to you?
I like that there was always a bone bonded, because that kind of solidifies that sort of piece, right? Like, and I think they are, I'm picturing them as a little bit of a quiet type slow to anger almost, because like I said, like the idea that there's a peaceful kind of coexistence, I think kind of gives it this idea that like this is a person that is a diplomat sort of, or is a diplomat until shit gets real.
Okay. Cool. Let me just do this real quick and doing some slide manipulation here.
PowerPoint magic.
All right, so let's blast through some of this stuff real quick. Yeah. What is the name of this bone bonded?
Their name is, let's go with
Fenstus Kelbairn.
Done. Perfect. Damn, that was at all my fantasy children level. I'm in awe.
It's Iron Edda. I can only do it with Iron Edda because I've been doing this for a while.
That's fair.
So high concept. No knives where words will do. trouble is my father's rabbits are braver than I. Clan is a description of their relationship with the giant in their head. I'm feeling something pretty peaceful, actually. Almost like Ymir is massive, right?
Yeah.
Ymir is the world in some myths, so it's something like what notice does the dragon take of the housefly?
Love it. I also love that because it adds to their meekness, right? Like it adds to this idea that they see themselves as very small because they are in sort of the presence of something so colossal.
Yeah, for sure.
That kind of explains why they might lack bravery, because they know that there is that in the world which is so much larger than them.
Yeah, 100%. I'm liking Fenstis so far here. Sacred item is the blessing of Seer Kel.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Seer was their parent.
Okay.
Okay, and we won't worry about a group aspect for this person. What we do need to do is we need to make Ymir the father of giants.
All right.
So, in the Iron Edda core book,
Yep.
in chapter 11, not chapter 11, where is it? Creating the rest of the world. Threats of Midgard. There we are. It's in chapter 9. There are example threats, and I am immediately going to go to Loki's entry, because giants are on par with the gods when they're around.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the thing I'm looking for, actually, that's not going to apply to this giant. I think the giant's just bigger than most.
Yeah.
So what Loki has does not actually apply. So for if you want to assign Fenstis's stats array there on that slide, you can go ahead and just rearrange those numbers as you see fit, and I will type some stuff out for Ymir here.
I'm going to give them a two in force, because I think they do have this massive like power within themselves. 2 in focus, a 0 in flair, and a 1 in guile and haste.
And for Fenstis, just because they're bonded to Ymir, go ahead and you have 2 more points to assign to any of those stats, those approaches, as you wish.
All right, so I'm going to put 1 more in guile, and we're going to put 1 more in force.
Okay, wonderful. In spite of himself, Fenstis is getting bleed over from Ymir. So Ymir is the father of giants. His high concept is my name is who I am. His trouble is all or small to me. His worldly desire is everything, which means that there's no telling what Fenstis has to do to recover boxes for their approaches and whatnot, or their conditions. Ymir's unique approach is worldly at +4, and Ymir operates at epic scale instead of giant scale. So this is all of that stuff. I'm also going to say that I'm not going to note them down, but if they come up, Fenstis has the 2 core stunts, has next to the gods in power, so can mark another box to operate at godlike in this case. Definitely can reshape the bones. Is a bondfire channeler. And has the restless dead. So Fenstis doesn't sleep much, like once every couple of weeks. So but the next to the gods in power is going to be the one that actually probably comes into play most directly.
Probably, yeah.
So let me give Fenstis some stress boxes here, and then an imperil and a doomed, and Fenstis, I think, is ready to go. So, all right, we have Fenstis, Kelbaron. We know that they're bound to Ymir, the father of giants. Claudius has just uttered the word perfect as they've breached the gates of Jotunheim. What does it look like when Fenstis summons forth Ymir?
Oh, I think it is that, like, every bone, we've described sort of the boneyards of Jotunheim, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is those bones kind of rattle and sink into the earth, almost as if, like, pulled down by a mighty weight, and like it in Claudius's mind, this gives the feel that I am walking, and the earth is falling around me, because Claudius is that kind of asshole. And then suddenly, walking, I think in a robe, like, hands sort of doing the thing with a robe where you kind of tuck the hands in and you hold your forearms, walking forth, and like just slowly kind of bones starting to jut out and starting to like take on like a shift in shape, and just starting to like grow larger, is this tiny meek man. I think Ivar, walking behind with. Did we give a name to our the woman from the other holdfast who came and who has been working with us?
We did, and I will be damned if I can remember it right now.
Darn.
Because we named her in the first session. She didn't appear in the second one.
Okay, then yeah. So I'm gonna name her Svetlana, because I think that I like that name a lot. And if that's not it, then apologies to us from 2 sessions ago. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, that's fine. I was gonna say there's a there's a cut back where there's a scene
we
that
have
she
it
had.
No, we have it here. Aha. No, Ingrid was me, wasn't it? Nope, that's her. That's her.
No, Ingrid Spellfast. Yeah, that's
all right,
her.
Perfect. Haha. These are note taking.
We keep great notes, Jeff.
So yeah, Ivar is walking behind with Ingrid, kind of carrying a sword at her side, and the handful of Jotunheim people willing to defend. I think we get a shot back to like a house of we get a shot back of Leaf just like watching this from a window, a similar setup but much more to Claudius, with the map and the daggers, and like just giant X's where traps have fallen shy, and I think
Leaf is standing there though with the scythe in hand, and the blade is arcing over their head.
And Fenstis is just walking out, and it's like, I wish we could have settled this with words. I really, really do, but I doubt that is an option, and so let us settle this the other way. And just starts to grow larger.
I sent the Baron to do a man's job. And then,
ka-chunk. And it's just like, it kind of has that feeling of like carrying a heavy box one spurt at a time. That sort of thump to dump, and it's just suddenly like massive arm. And it just like, you just watch the robe come, like tears to shreds, and there's wearing like just barely armor underneath as it just grows and grows, and he just begins to channel more than anything just the size of Amir, right? Just that scope of it.
So what color is the fire that surrounds Fenstis's body?
It is deep. We said, what did we say? We said it was sort of autumn-ish. Then it's going to be sort of an ember brown, like a reddish ruddy brown, a reddish brown.
Oh, it's the color of earth, but fire. And I think that the limbs, as Ymir's as the bone shards are coming out of the ground, they're not like other bone bonded where it's whole bones. I think it's the shape of bones made up of thousands of fragments.
That's amazing.
It's just the shattered wreckage of all these other giants coming together, and most bone bonded stop at about 30 feet tall. And I think when Ymir crests 70 feet is when Corwin sort of looks over at Claudius and says, if we make it out of this alive, you owe me even more.
And I just reach for my sword. Actually, I don't reach for my sword. What am I saying? That's ridiculous. I'm gonna tap 2 boxes of my people. I think I reach for my sword and I like draw it and I just point. And I'm like, dispat, like chop this tree down. The larger they are, show us what happens when they are larger. And I'm going to tap 2 boxes of my people, leaving me with 1 left, to call in a favor, or to call in the right one for the job, a Huskarl, with a +4 to force. We'll say this is the classic, I am bringing in my largest person, which is like 7 feet tall, but I'm still calling in the largest person that I have.
Okay,
hoping that they will stand against them.
Name this person real quick.
Their name is Hyronius, but I only refer to them as Hammer.
Okay, and then for their approach, the thing they're good at does not have to be an approach. It can just be a broad thing, just like with my bandits.
It is overpowering.
So they're overpowering at +4. They get 6 stress boxes, and if I remember right, they also get in peril. Hyronius does anyway. And then, this is a classic. This is from War of Metal and Bone era Iron Edda. They have a stunt called The Bigger They Are, and it means they get a +2 to attack when opponent has scale.
Okay.
So, that is Hyronius.
And I just like step back and I let Hyronius just like bum rush Festus's like ankle, right? To try and like do sort of a double leg takedown on a single ankle.
Okay. So because this may be the first actual combat we've had since we've done this, Iron Edda Accelerated uses handoff initiative. So since Hyronius took the first action, Hyronius is going to go, and then you, being the person who controls Hyronius, will choose who is going to go next. The actors in this situation, as I see them, and feel free to add or adjust as you see fit, are Hyronius, you, me, Festus, and then just sort of the world in general, so we can play out the background stuff cinematically.
That sounds good.
Okay, wonderful. So Hyronius is going first and taking the attack action. I'm assuming using overpowering.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I will roll on behalf of Festus.
All right.
And Festus is going to defend using force. Now, Festus operates at epic scale, so that means that they are 1, 2, 3 steps ahead, so they're just going to roll at +6.
Okay. I have rolled a total of 6. +2 because you have scale. So that's a total of 8 +8.
Okay. Festus rolled a straight up 6. Ymir just got an even 6. So that is 2 shifts that you've got on Festus, and I think out of shock, those hits are just going to go through.
Okay.
As 2 shifts of stress. So describe what it looks like when Hyronius just rolls in and attacks this massive fuck off giant.
I think I lift the foot and like shove it back, right? Like I think Hyronius lifts the foot and shoves it back and like steps back and knocks Festus onto one knee. It doesn't knock them over, but knocks them onto a knee so that they're in this position. And then Hyronius just like cracks his knuckles. And then's like, okay.
All right. Who is going next?
I think next is going to be... I think Claudius is going to be next.
Okay. What does Claudius do?
Claudius is going to... actually, you know what? I think let's have the world go next.
All right. So
because I want to know what happens once Festus is taking a knee.
Okay, so cinematically, let's have you nominally control the Petruvian side of the world, and I'll control the Midgardian side. So the Petruvians, I think, have the upper hand at this point in time. So what do the Petruvians do in general?
The Petruvians are have started to surround the Midgardians.
Okay,
they are the few of us that are left are like causing an arc, surrounding and closing in.
All right. I think as the arc is closing in, you see Ivar sort of look over at Ingrid uh, and sort of just grin and like roll his shoulders a little bit, and the firelight is reflecting off that dragon scale armor. I think the camera pans up to the window of the mead hall, and you don't see. I just had it. Leaf. You don't see Leaf standing there anymore. But there's an obvious like cinematic effect that you can tell he's coming down the stair, or they're coming down the stairs.
Love it.
And I think that Ingrid pulls out a couple of daggers and just sort of flips them in her palms and catches the hilts as our characters from the previous games all sort of prepare for the Petruvian ring to close in on them. Because they know that the Petruvians don't know what they're fucking with.
Mm-hmm. And I think we also then see one last thing, which is I'm not even gonna say, I don't even think we see anything. I think as Ivar gives a grin, like his eyes pan over, and like it pans over to a cliff, to like a rock outcropping, and there's just like, the light catches it in just such a way to reveal there's like a crack and a crevice in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's just like an opening within this rock formation.
And everyone who has seen the prequels knows that Sigrun is down there watching all of this.
Yep.
That's awesome. Cool. Who would you like to see go next?
Let's have Fenstis go.
Okay. I think that Fenstis, we can see it because we're the audience and have an omnipresent and omniscient camera, has kind of a sad smile on his face as he looks down at Hieronius, and the giant moves, but not the way that a bone bonded would normally move. Ymir is going to use the approach worldly. And I think in this instance, that means that Ymir is almost one with the earth because he is the earth. So I think that the bones, it's almost like in the style of the Mummy, right? With the face in the sand in that first movie. I think that the bone fragments all sort of rain down to the ground, and you don't see Fenstis anywhere. And then the ground rumbles briefly, and a massive hand that is comprised of all of the bones that were making up the entire body just blasts up from the ground, grabbing at Hieronius with the intent to take and just slam him to the ground. Fenstis is going to mark another box of Summon the Bones. That leaves him with one box left. So he's going to operate at godlike scale.
That sounds right.
And let's see if that is while operating at giant scale, thanks to Summon the Bones, you operate at giant scale until you send the bones. Okay, so yeah, this makes Ymir godlike for the rest of the time that he is present. So, that worldly approach rolls at +4 on its own and is 4 steps above where poor Fenstis is. So that is going to be a total of +8 to the dice.
Okay. I've rolled. Hieronius is again just going to try and like pull the fingers apart the same way that he knocked you onto one knee and roll. I rolled a -1, so that's going to be a +3 total.
Okay, the difference is 5 shifts.
Okay.
Hieronius, being an NPC, does not have any fate points. You, I think, we'll flex a little bit because we're co-GMs. I would say you can use your fate points on him if you would like to.
I'm going to
Um,
not do that, and I'm simply going to take the 5 stress. I think this is
okay.
Hyronius simply being, you know, obliterated.
Yeah. So the fist comes down and slams him into the ground. And as the bones sort of fall away and reform into Ymir, almost faster than you can see, Hyronius is laying there on the ground. I think he coughs and gets up, but his body is just covered in small cuts
Mm-hmm.
from all the bone shards. Um, and since he didn't mark his imperial condition, I think that he didn't like break any limbs or anything, but he is obviously battered and bruised
Mm-hmm.
to hell. He literally can take one more hit like that before a stiff breeze will knock him
Yeah.
over. Okay, wonderful. So that was fences going. I would like to see Claudius already.
No, Claudius is not
Well,
gone.
Claudius is not gone because you summoned
Yeah.
Hyronius to the fight. So Claudius, let's see what you got.
I think at this moment, Claudius is. I'm going to introduce. I'm going to call in, not call in a favor. I'm going to like tap my last box of my people. I think at this moment, I am. Uh, I think at this moment I am calling in a person more so because I need someone to take the fall. Like I need an ace in the hole to throw someone away, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need someone to their specialty is uh right hand man. Their specialty
Okay.
is giving orders on behalf of me. They have a +2 at that. Their name is we'll go with Cedric. Their name is Cedric. It's a very basic name. They are my second. They are my right hand, and I pull them aside and I'm like, we can't we can't defeat whatever this is, but we can force him to stop. Do what it takes to force this to stop, or do what it takes to force them to a knee. If we can't do it physically, we will do it morally and emotionally. And I'm indulging in my worst self and basically making the call again to go to. If they will not kneel, we will chop them down. But my action is to tap my people and put Cedric in the scene.
Okay.
And then and then I want to see what Corwin does after that.
All right. Um, so Cedric is in the scene now. On slide 10, will you make a card for Cedric real quick?
Yes, yes, I will.
And so your intent with Cedric was to have Cedric start verbal negotiations? Is that
To start ordering the other soldiers to basically like ignore the fight and start targeting civilians.
Oh, so it's the same thing as you had ordered before.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So right hand only gets a +2 for this one because
Yep.
Cedric is not your
And
Huskarl. Yeah,
I don't think we have a stunt.
just stating for the people who are
Yep.
listening. And you also don't get he doesn't get an imperil either.
Right. Got it.
Um, so
What does Corwin do when you hear what the butcher has in mind?
mhm. I think that Corwin just looks over at Claudius, and in one of those moments where there's far too much time to actually say something compared to how things are really proceeding,
Mm-hmm.
he says, I'd heard that down on the desert brand there's a large cat. Call it a leopard or some such. There's a saying there that those things don't change their spots, and I'm afraid that might be the case with you." And Corwin sort of gestures to uh, to their ragtag scoundrels and says, "Fellows, I think we need to stop that man right there," and points to what'd you name the Cedric? And points to Cedric. So that's going to engage the bandits to go after Cedric. The bandits are good at banding together and carousing. That doesn't really do much here, so they're just really going to be rolling straight up.
But I also don't think Cedric's like right hand. Nah, I think it does. He's. What do you think?
I think it counts.
All right. So that's a straight +2. That is a wash.
Yeah. So I got +2 on mine, and I think I'm going to invoke. I cannot cross rivers for all the bridges I burned, and make that a 4.
Okay.
So that's 4 shifts of stress coming at Cedric from the bandits, and then I think that'll be Corwin's action because it's sort of like you summoned up Cedric. Corwin's just going to bring the bandits into play, and then that is all of the actors in this scene. So, I'm of the opinion that for the top of the next round, we should see the Bone Bonded act again. What do you think?
Yep, I think that sounds good.
Perfect. Okay, then honestly, it's going to be second verse, same as the first, except that Ymir is going to dispense with all pretense. There's not even going to be an attempt to form a humanoid limb with these bones. The bones are just going to make like Leaf did with the Jarl and just stab up through the ground.
Love
just
it.
A nest of knives. And again, the modifier on the roll is +8.
Oh no, that's 2 -1s. 3 -1s. That's 4 -1s. That's a 0.
That's a 0, and I rolled.
That's a 0. That's a 0 total because it was a -4 with overpowering.
I rolled +2 on the dice. +8 is a 10.
All right. Well, Hieronius is out of this fight.
Yeah, so Hieronius definitely gets taken out. I think we can all imagine how that happens given my description, and we'll just elide over that a little bit.
Yep.
I would like to see what Claudius does following that.
Claudius is going after Claudius is not happy with any of this. I think Claudius... No, you know what, Claudius? I know exactly what Claudius will do. Corwin's downfall will be my redemption.
Okay.
If you can't even... this is what I get for trusting bandits. I'm going after you with the full strength of my wrath, and I'm going to attack at Corwin, just sort of, sword out, and I'm like, bandit garbage, and I run at you, and I'm gonna make an attack with force. Good. Fair. All right, that's a +3, so that is a total of 6, and I'm gonna preemptively invoke an aspect. I'm gonna preemptively invoke my Bloodstained Blade of Law and Order to put that up to an 8.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you a question real quick about that Bloodstained Blade of Law and Order.
Yeah.
This may be ridiculous. If it's ridiculous, we can walk it back.
Right.
But I was looking at this stunt that I have that's called Was This Yours?
I think that's not ridiculous even a little bit.
Okay, fantastic.
I know exactly what you're asking, and it's not at all ridiculous.
Okay, wonderful. Then I would suggest walking back your invocation of the Bloodstained Blade. You can either find another aspect to invoke, or I think we can call it a compel, and you can get a fate point for it. I'm
gonna invoke Corwin's downfall will be my redemption. I am coming at you with the fury of knowing that like I have to do this to redeem myself for what I have just ordered Cedric to do.
Okay, so I think that as you make this charge, and this is all before my roll, so we'll see what actually happens. Oh, no, I've got a great idea for Corwin. This is gonna be great.
All right.
So you you charge and you draw your blade. And I'm going to mark a box of desperation. And the item that I have, along with plausible deniability, should that come up, is in fact the bloodstained blade of Law and Order. And as your sword comes down, Corwin blocks your strike with Corwin's own sword. And with that, Corwin blocks your strike with Claudius's own sword. Corwin is going to concede the conflict.
Okay.
So Corwin is going to be taken out, but on Corwin's terms.
Okay.
Not on Claudius's. So what is Claudius's reaction when his family's ancestral blade is in Corwin's hands?
I think it's just awe, right? It's awe and it's anger and I think I step back and I look at the like rusted piece of garbage in my hand and I'm just like, there's no limit. There's no limit to what you will stoop to.
And I think as you are staring at the rusted sword, the camera pans back and Corwin is actually not there. And I think Claudius hears a voice just behind them. It says, "You probably should have let me go when I asked you to." And then Corwin's just gone. Like, out of the conflict, I don't think we know what happens to them necessarily. We might be able to epilogue it. But Corwin's not a part of this conflict anymore, and Claudius is missing a sword.
And I think speaking of epiloguing it, I think that this is kind of the note to, I think, end this specifically with an invocation of my other stunt, Onward to Valhalla.
Oh, where I think this is good.
I think what has happened is, like, the swarm of bone shards is approaching. The other soldiers are kind of backing up. Ivar and Ingrid are twirling their weapons. Claudius starts to back up, and a scythe lowers, and the ground starts to shake as something built beneath the surface in the event that Jotunheim is in danger. We don't see what it is, begins to shake, and in that moment, Claudius just throws a glance at Cedric, who draws a sword and puts it to someone's throat, and everyone's attention in the time that it takes Leaf to strike down Cedric. Claudius is just gone, is off into the woods. And I think that's the note, that's the downfall, right? Is that all of the posturing, all of the heel promos in the world, when it came down to it, this is Jotunheim is a place that is protected.
Mm-hmm.
To steal a line from Doctor Who, which is much better than anything that I will create.
Fair enough. Go ahead and mark out of favor.
Yeah.
On Claudius there. Wow. That's a really solid ending.
That's a very good ending.
I like that a lot. I'm just sitting here enjoying
right?
Just enjoying the resonance of that. That's really good.
It's exactly what I wanted when we decided we were going to play scoundrel awful characters. It's the exact level of comeuppance, and it works. Here's why it works great. This is our debrief.
Yeah.
Here's why I was so ready to play this is because we had outlined so many compelling heroic characters that I was like, I want to put a villain here and just watch them not stand up to the strike that we have given these people who will defend this place.
Mm-hmm.
It's outlining a great superhero team and then we're going to watch the villain just get crushed.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
That was good. That was fun.
Yeah. Oh, Jeff, thank you so much for this.
Thank you. This is a treasure.
I love playing this game with you.
It's a treasure every single time. I love it. I'm smiling ear to ear. I don't know if you can hear it on mic, but I'm smiling ear to ear.
It 100%. It comes through.
Good. I'm glad. Tracy, thank you so much for coming on the show and playing this with me. This is always such a treasure.
I'm I come from a Midwest Christian background, so I hesitate to use the word blessing lightly because it carries a lot of connotations, but it's a goddamn blessing to play with you.
Thank you. That makes me very happy. Real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Oh, you can find me online pretty much everywhere as the other Tracy. Tracy is spelled Tracy. That's my website. It's my Twitter. My itch.io page is theothertracy.itch.io. The only exception is my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Tracy Barnett. And yeah, you can buy my games. You can support my Patreon. You can listen to my work. You can play my work. I have come to the realization that I do a lot of things, and I'm just very happy that I'm able to. So if you have dug any of this, if you've dug any of this and you want to support any of it, that would just be thrilling to me.
I know that feeling real well, but thank you so much for doing the show. This was a delight. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Tracy for coming on to the show. I swear, every time we play this game, I love it even more than the last, and that one was no exception. That game owned. Be sure to check the show notes for more information about Tracy's work, including the other cast, Another Blank Page, all of their games, and IronNet Accelerated. It's all in the show notes, and be sure to follow them on Twitter @TheOtherTracy. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, and I really, really hope you did, here's a few ways that you can directly support the show. One is you can tell a friend. You can just tell somebody you liked it. You can tweet at me at Party of One Pod or post it on Facebook at facebook.com/Party of One Podcast. All of those things are just, put that positivity into the world. You can leave a nice review on iTunes, Podchaser, Podbean, whatever service you use to listen to podcasts probably has a review function, and reviews there are really helpful for boosting discoverability, which helps us get listed on fancy lists and things. That's really, really helpful. You can financially support the show at patreon.com/JeffStormer. $5 a month gets you next week's episode this week. $10 a month gets you unedited audio a few weeks in advance. And $20 a month gets you a picture of the entire Party of One production calendar, so you can see exactly how far in advance we plan all of this crap. Or you can also just support the other podcast that I produce every week, All My Fantasy Children, on the One Shot Podcast Network, a tabletop-inspired character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast powered by you. Every week, my best friend in Arrow, Quintano Saez, and I take a listener-submitted prompt, we spin it into an original fantasy character, and we populate a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday-ish at oneshotpodcast.com. Any of those things is a tangible showing of support, which really makes me happy, and it means the world to me, and I can't really emphasize that enough. Anyway, Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Megaran, featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming onto the show as a guest, or press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And I think that's it. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.